am here to record a video about the drafting pattern. It is because based from the submitted outputs, there are still parts of your patterns that needs to be enhanced and improved, especially in the measurements and the manipulations of your tools. Now, do not forget that for us to have a successful pattern, we need to have accurate measurements, properly divided, and of course, the proper handling and manipulations of our drafting tools. Now, before that one, let us have a review about our measurements. Now, take note that our inch scale has been divided into 8 equal parts. Now, if this is my 0 line and this is my inch line, do not forget that our 0 line starts at the metal tip found on your tape measure. That is the indicator that is the 0 line of our tape measure. Now, since it has been divided into 8 equal parts, now the denominator should be by 8. No? So, we have the first, if the first space is our 1/8, having 2 lines. Then we have our 1/4. We have 3/8, 5/8, 3/4, and 7/8. Then reaching at the 8th space, which is 8/8 or 1 inch. Now, if there will be additional space for this will be read as 1 and 1/8. On how to divide the different body measurements. Now, remember that there are 3 classifications of body measurements. So, we have the vertical, the horizontal, and the circumferential measurements. Now, vertical measurements do have a divisor of 1. Now, horizontal measurements, the divisor is 2, while on the other hand, the divisor of circumferential measurement is 4. Now, take for an instance, we've taken figure or the body's length. Now, that is an example of a vertical measurements. Thus, whatever measure that you have taken on that particular part remains the same. For instance, your figure is 15. That will be the measurements that you need to use in drafting the pattern. Now, for instance, your shoulder measurement is 15. Now, how do we divide it using our tape measure? We have to divide it like this. Since your 0 line of the tape measure to 15 inches, like this one, fold it, and this is how you divide it by 2. Now, when you open it up, the fold says that the divided measurement of 15 is 7.5. Now, we go to circumferential measurement. For example, you've taken at your waist measurement 24 inches. Since that is a circumferential measurement, you need to divide it by 4. Now, again, bring the metal tip to 24 inches. So, since it has been folded once, this is the half. Since we need 1/4, please, the folded part should be brought to 24 inches line and fold it. And this is now the 1/4 of our 24. Now, when you try to locate what is the 1/4 of it, now make sure that you knew how to economize your pattern. Now, as observed, from the submitted outputs, there are some spaces that wasn't occupied during the drafting of your pattern. So please economize it properly, no, para tipid pod sa ato ang pattern. So you won't be buying plenty of pattern papers for your patterns. So for the basic, now if this is now please take note that as we draft our pattern for the blouses, we are folding our pattern paper in a crosswise manner. So again, if this is the top of Manila paper and this is my center fold, the center fold would indicate that the pattern has been folded into two. So it is again in a crosswise manner. Draw a perpendicular line. No, it's just like this. So, from point 1 down to 2, this is your figure and mark point 2. Then, square the line. Now, from point 1 going to point 3, this is the 1/2 of your shoulder measure plus 1 inch and then mark point 3, then square the line. From point 1 going to point 4, this is 1/2 of your shoulder measure and square a thin line below point 4. Then from point 1 to point 5, this is 2 1/2 inches and mark point 5. Now from your point 1 going to point 6, this is 3 inches and mark point 6. Then, connect points 5 and 6 using our French curve pa. Placing our French curve like this. And from point 4 going to point 7, this is 1 3/4 inches and connect points 5 and 7, forming our shoulder line. Now, from point 4 going to point 7, this is our shoulder drop. We go to point 8. Now, from point 3 going to point 8, measure going to the right of point 3, the 1/4 of your bust measurement, and mark point 8. Then, from point 8 going to point 9, measure 1 inch and this is our bust allowance. Now, how to get point 10? This is the part of your pattern that most of you got it wrong. Now, how to do that one? It says on our procedure that you need to get the midpoint of point 7 and corner line point 3 to 9 or 8 and 9. So, by just simply placing the tip of your tape measure on the thin line, along the thin line, going to the square of that thin line, just fold your tape measure and wherever the half of it, that is the point 10. So it doesn't necessarily that the point 7 and 8 would align. So after locating your midpoint, which is our point 10, we measure inward 3/4 inch and that is our point 11. Now, for us to form our armhole, we need to connect points 10, 11, and 9. Now, please look carefully on how to manipulate the French curve. Now, just place your French curve on point 7, 11, and 9. Now, if instance, that immediately when you place it like that, the point 7, 11, and 8 would be hit by our French curve, then that would be okay. Now, if ever that you have difficulty in shaping your armhole, you can just shape first or connect first your point 7 and 11 but make sure that it is slightly curved. You use this part of your French curve, and you connect points 11, 8, and 9 using this part of your French curve for you to easily shape your armhole. Now make sure that when you shape that one, it is having a smooth curve. So of 12. Now from point 2 going to the right, you measure the 1/4 of your waist measurement and mark it point 12. Now from point 12 going to point 13, and this is our waistline allowance, and this is 1 1/2 inches. And then connect points 9 and 13. Now, for us to get the point 14, go to your point 1, measure downward equal to your bust height, and mark point 14. Now from your point 14 going to the right, you measure the 1/2 of your bust distance and mark point 15. Then, from your point 15 going downward, you measure 1/2 and mark point 15A. And from your 15 going to the right, you measure 1/2 again and mark point 15B. Then, from your point 2 going to the right, you measure again the 1/2 of your bust distance and mark point 16. Now, take note that point 14 to 15 is 1/2 of your bust distance. Thus, the point 15 and 16 would align. Then, from your point 16 going to the left, this is your point 17, which is 3/4 inch, and from your point 16 going to the right, this is our point 18, which measures 3/4 inch. Now after measuring points 16, 17, and 18, you connect points 15 to 16, 17, and 18 using your ruler or your L square. 15A to 16, 15A to 17, and 15A to 18. Now this forms our darts. Now we are not yet done. Now we will be forming now our side darts. Now from your point 9 going downward, you measure 2.5 inches, 3 inches. Now, you just decide what will be the measurement that you will be using in this particular part. You may just use 2.5, a minimum measure of 2.5 and a maximum measurement of 3 inches. So, example, we will be using 2.5. So, from point 9 downward, we measure 2.5 inches and mark point 19. Now from point 19 going upward, we measure 3/8 inch and mark point 20. Then from point 19 downward, you measure again 3/8 inch and mark point 21. And let us now connect points 15B to points 19, 20, and 21. Now, this is just the pattern for our basic front figure. Now, take note that we have side darts over here. And 3/8 plus 3/8 is equal to 3/4 inch. Thus, we need to add on the lower portion of our pattern 3/4 inch, because when you sew this particular area, now this would be vanished. Thus, we need to add 3/4 inch below for us to have the length which is not deducted, no? So from point 13 going downward, we measure 3/4. It's because of this. 3/8 plus 3/8 is equal to 3/4. Just extend the line downward and mark point 22. And from point 2 going downward, we measure 3/4 inch again and mark that one as point 23. And connect points 23 to 22. And then, as extend the line for our point 17, 16, and 18, marking it point 17A, point 16A, and point 18A. Now, this is our front figure pattern.